Why Gabriel Oak wins. The most useful man in Victorian literature spends most of the story being ignored, and the film treats that as a feature, not a flaw. Most people misunderstand this film. They think it's a love story about three men competing for a woman, but that's not what Far From the Madding Crowd is about. Because if it were, Gabriel Oak will be the loser. He is rejected by the woman he loves, early, plainly, and without cruelty. He loses his farm, the thing he built, the thing that made him somebody. He loses his livestock in a single night of catastrophe. One dog, one cliff, everything gone. He loses his standing, his proposal, his future as he imagined it. And yet, by the end of the story, he is the only man who actually wins. Not socially, not romantically at first, but in the only way that matters when life stops being fair. He is still himself. That's rarer than it sounds. On the surface, this is a triangle. Oak, steady, quiet, reliable. A man who works with his hands and means what he says. Troy, charismatic, dangerous, magnetic. A man who wears charm like armor and uses beauty like a weapon. Boldwood, wealthy, intense, obsessive. A man who has never wanted anything he could not eventually obtain until now. And Bathsheba ever did, appears to be choosing between them. That's the story we think we are watching. But that framing is the illusion. Because the film isn't really asking, who should she choose? It's asking something harder and more universal. Who can survive reality? Not just hardship, not just loss, but the specific kind of suffering that comes from wanting life to be different from what it is and discovering that it won't comply. That's the real contest, and most of the characters don't even know they are in it. Human beings are drawn to what shines, not what lasts. Troy shines. He enters the story like a performance. That is precisely the right word because almost everything he does is performance. The sword display, the flattery, the sudden declarations of love. He is brilliant at creating that feeling of aliveness in whoever he is with. That's not nothing. In fact, it's intoxicating. But performance requires an audience, and it requires things to go well. Boldwood shines differently. He offers status, gravity, certainty, the kind of love that feels like a fortress. If Troy represents wildfire, Boldwood represents bedrock. Except Boldwood's love is not really about Bathsheba. It's about what she represents to her man who has never been destabilized before. She sent him a card as a joke, a thoughtless Valentine, and it cracked something open in him that should never have been so fragile. Even Bathsheba herself is not immune. She is clever, independent, genuinely capable of running a farm on her own, and yet she is drawn again and again to how things look, to the theater of love rather than its substance. The problem with Shine is simple. It disappears under pressure. And life, actual life, not the romantic idea of it, it's nothing but pressure. At the beginning, Gabriel Oak is not a hero in the cinematic sense. He is not commanding, he is not wealthy, he doesn't make a room, go quiet when he enters it. He proposes too early, before he has proven himself, before Bathsheba has any real reason to take him seriously as a partner rather than a neighbor. It's a miscalculation. He reads the situation wrong. She turns him down. Then comes the sheep, his entire flock driven off a cliff by an inexperienced dog in a single night. In a conventional story, this is the moment the protagonist breaks or disappears, where the narrative sidelines the unlucky man to make room for the exciting one. But Oak doesn't disappear. He finds a new farm, picks up a shepherd's crook, and goes back to work. Not because he is saintly, not because he doesn't feel the weight of what he's lost, but because he has learned something, perhaps instinctively, perhaps through the hard discipline of a working life that the others never quite grasp. The world is not interested in your grief schedule. You either adapt or you don't. Let's stay here for a moment because this is the scene that defines everything. Oak loses everything in one night, not through moral failure, not through laziness or arrogance, through circumstance, through the kind of random cruelty that life occasionally delivers, to remind you that fairness is a human concept, not a natural law. Most people, confronted with that kind of loss, do one of two things. They collapse inward, grief, bitterness, paralysis, or they rage outward. Blame, denial, the desperate search for someone to hold responsibility. Oak does neither. He sits with it. He absorbs it. He then reorients it, not emotionally first, practically. There is a farm nearby that needs help. There is work to be done. His feelings about the unfairness of the situation are real, but they are not useful right now. This is not suppression. This is prioritization. Reality does not negotiate. It does not care what you had planned. It does not offer refunds. From that moment on, Oak stops being defined by what he wants, starts being defined by what he can still do. Now, the story splits not into three love interests, but into three philosophies. First, we have Troy. I want it, so I take it. Reality is optional. When circumstances turn, he disappears, literally. He resurfaces only when his original desire is gone. Second, we have Baldwin. I want it, so it must become mine. Reality is bendable. A good man in many ways, but his love is fixation. He cannot metabolize rejection. And then we have Oak. I want it, but reality decides. Reality is final. He wants Bathsheba. He accepts that wanting is not enough and keeps living fully without her. Only one of these three philosophies survives contact with time. You already know which one. Here's the thing, the script has been circling all along, and it's worth naming directly. Troy is pure performance. He needs an audience for his identity to function. Remove the audience, remove Bathsheba's admiration, Fanny's devotion, and the crowd at the sword display, and there is almost nothing left. It does not exist between the moments when someone is watching. Oak has presence. He remains the same whether anyone is watching or not. He covers the risks in the storm, not because Bathsheba will see him do it, she won't at first, but because the risks need covering. The work is the work, regardless of who is there to witness it. This distinction sounds simple, but think about how much of what most of us do is quietly performance. The carefully worded email, the casual mention of an achievement, the social media post that frames our life as we wish it were. We perform constantly, and the performing is exhausting and fragile, and it cannot survive sustained contact with reality, because reality has no audience. Oak's great gift is that he is the same person in the dark, in the rain, with no one watching, as he is when Bathsheba is looking directly at him. This is not a small thing. This is almost everything. Bathsheba is one of the most interesting characters in Victorian literature, precisely because she is not simply making bad choices. She is making understandable choices that reveal something true about how people actually fall in love as opposed to how they think they will. With Troy, she is choosing excitement, the feeling of being seen, the intoxication of someone who makes ordinary life feel insufficient. Every person who has ever been swept up in passion understands this completely. With Boldwood, she is choosing something closer to obligation, guilt partly for having ignited something she can't extinguish, but perhaps the strange appeal of being wanted, even if the wanting has nothing to do with who she actually is. With Oak, for a long time, she chooses almost nothing. She keeps him at arm's length. She relies on him, trusts him, occasionally resents him for being right. Because Oak doesn't let her be anything other than herself. He doesn't perform for her. He doesn't flatter her into a better opinion of herself. He sometimes tells her plainly and at personal risk when she is wrong. That kind of honesty is easy to overlook. It is much harder to glamorize than a sword demonstration in a field, but it is also the only kind that holds up. And here is the one thing that makes this more than a story about Oak. Bathsheba's arc is its own version of the same argument. She starts as someone who performs. She sends the Valentine as theater. She runs the farm partly to be seen doing it. And she ends up as someone who has been burnt into something realer. Both of them arrive at the same truth from opposite directions. That's what makes the ending feel earned rather than convenient. Oak does something that looks, for most of the story, like losing. He doesn't escalate. He doesn't compete on Troy's terms or Boldwood's terms. He doesn't manufacture moments or press advantages. He shows up, he does the work, he tells the truth. The storm scene is where this becomes undeniable. Bathsheba's harvest is at risk. Oak doesn't wait to be asked. He simply starts covering the risks alone, in the dark, in the rain, because the work needs doing. No audience, no rewards, no guarantee she'll ever know. When her marriage to Troy deteriorates, he doesn't circle like a man who is waiting for his turn. He doesn't say, I told you so. He manages her farm with the same quiet competence he always has, because that is who he is, regardless of how the romantic situation resolves. This is not strategy, it's character. And the difference matters because strategy can be dropped when it stops working, but character just keeps going. Over time, everything unstable collapses around him. Troy self-destructs. Boldwood breaks. The shine fades. The obsession burns out. Not because Oak destroyed them. He didn't. He barely engaged. But because they were never built to last. So why did Gabriel Oak win? He's not the most aggressive, not the most attractive, not the richest, not the most exciting, not the most dramatic. He wins because he's the only one whose identity is not dependent on winning. Troy needs to be desired to know who he is. Boldwood needs to possess. Oak, well, he's just Oak. He can lose status, love, wealth, certainty, and remain coherent, remain recognizable, remain capable of useful action the morning after everything falls apart. That is an almost unreasonably rare quality. Most of us build our sense of self on condition. I am who I am because I have this job, this relationship, this reputation, this version of the future I've been imagining. Take any of those away, and the self starts to dissolve. Oak builds himself on something that can't be taken, on work, on honesty, on the willingness to keep showing up, even when the returns are not what he wanted. And here is the uncomfortable part, the part worth sitting with. Most of us, if we are honest, we are Troy or Boldwood than we are Oak. We perform, we fixate, we make our sense of self hostage to outcomes we can't control. The story doesn't judge us for that. It just shows us quietly over the full length of the narrative what it costs. The story doesn't reward the man who gets everything he wants. It rewards the man who remains himself when he doesn't. And perhaps that's the most useful thing fiction can show us. Not how to win, but how to still be worth something when you lose. The real question the film leaves you with isn't who Bathsheba chose. It's which of the three men you recognize yourself in, and whether that recognition is comfortable. That is why Gabriel Oak wins, even when he loses everything. He loses the girl, he loses his farm, he loses everything and still wins.